Please make the mechanism transparent and non-partisan. Stephen Wade, will South Australians have an ICAC by late today?
I'm sure they will.
Well, I think you might be breaking out the handle a little bit early, Leon.
I'm going to let you people handle the matter.
Leon Biner, weekday mornings from 9 on 1395. Adelaide's 5AA Interactive Radio. Call 8223 0000. Peter Godfrey.
5:19. Now, I think the tune, Frank, I'm Australian. Is that the one, I think? A couple of texts here. Back to the topic that Tony raised earlier, the old frog cakes. Where did we up to? Jenny said about, yes, they're handmade. That's why they're so dear. Another text says, I love them. Although they are incredibly sweet and they're worth every cent. And another message came through suggesting that given how expensive the frog cakes are, maybe you'd be able to get gift vouchers and give them as presents for Christmas. Good idea. And one final thing, Valerie rang to say that she mentioned the other morning talking about Channel 44 and some of the programs on there, and she said they had one of the shows on the afternoon during the week. They had the cast of Jersey Boys on there, which she said they were fantastic. Which everyone who's seen the show would agree with that. Thank you for those messages. Let's head to New Zealand. Selwyn Manning from livenews.co.nz. How are you, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter. How are things over there?
Oh, not too bad. Probably not as exciting as it's been over there, particularly in Wellington. The world premiere of The Hobbit. We've got to wait till Boxing Day before we can see this. But
is that right?
Yeah, okay. It's been launched in fine style there.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, officially, this is the world premiere of the Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson, and his latest movie is The Hobbit, subtitled An Unexpected Journey. Mm-hmm. So, absolutely pulled off a huge event in Wellington. Tens of thousands of people lined that red carpet, and that red carpet stretched almost the length of Wellington's Courtenay Place, and for those who had visited there, it's like the cafe and bar central of
and it's like 600 metres long or something, is it? Is that what it was?
Yeah, and so it gave, I think it was designed not so much so that the stars and the cast could enjoy the fanfare, but so that so many more people could actually get to say something as they went through. And that's something really is a tick in Peter Jackson's cap, really. He has always brought his big blockbuster movies to New Zealand for the world premieres, keeping true to himself, obviously being a Kiwi and first off being a Wellingtonian. Just a fantastic event. Even if it was some sort of festival, it would have been a fantastic thing to attend. But with the focus on the movie, I guess there's been so much controversy over this movie prior to it actually going into production, and certainly at the end of production as well. And what I'm talking about there is Warner Brothers and the big movie moguls in the United States were reluctant to come down under to actually have this movie made. They were looking around the world for more affordable locations to have it made. Peter Jackson was really up against it, trying to get this movie made here, and the Prime Minister John Key actually waded in on this, went over to Hollywood and met with these bosses over there, and also invited them back to the Beehive, which is the centre of government here in New Zealand, and had meetings with them. To put it short, he changed the law to make it more attractive for the Hollywood bosses to make their movies this movie down here in New Zealand. A lot of controversy over that, but when people started to see what was coming out of it, it does appear, Peter, that there was a certain amount of forgiveness about all that controversy. The other thing at the end of it, that news reports came out in the last 2 weeks that a number of animals had died, animals that were involved in the production of the movie. And Peter Jackson's media team had very quickly moved to try and say that the animals had died not during the filming, but unfortunate things when off the set and away from the set. It wasn't that they were put into dangerous things. So there's been a lot of scrutiny around that and a lot of protest as well. That said, the movie is something obviously to be behold. There's a new technology to it. He's filmed it so that it can be projected in 48 frames per second. Now the normal is 24 frames per second. And so in 3D in the big IMAX type theatres, you'd be able to really see something quite different, he said. He alluded to the difference being like way back in the 1980s when we were all used to listening to vinyl on our record players, on our turntables, and the first time you heard a CD from the point of view of clarity is what he was talking about. I know today there's a lot of retro kind of interest going back to vinyl and getting a fuller kind of sound, but he was saying that clarity kind of thing is the difference. You'll see a smoother kind of movie, but more larger than life. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. You weren't at the premiere?
No, I was up in Auckland, so I did have a stream running. There was a live stream running, a very good one from Television 3 Network. Very, very good affair. There was a couple of light moments too. The Barry Humphries, famous around the world as Dame Edna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Now Barry Humphries Barry Humphries plays the part of the Goblin King in The Hobbit. And it's something to really look out for. This role apparently he just nails it apparently. And Peter Jackson, the director, was asked what attracted him to Barry Humphries for the role. And I'll read out the direct reply, Peter, that you can hear it. He says, "It was interesting trying to cast that role because the character is a very uncouth, very bad personal hygiene and has very bad personal hygiene issues. Vocabulary is quite small, so obviously casting someone from Australia seemed like the obvious place to go to first."
Oh no.
And he said, and if you look at all Australians available to us, Barry was the person that fit the bill perfectly. So there you go. And of course, the stage was set for the reply from Barry Humphries, who almost went into Dame Edna type of character, and he replied that he brings a healthy Australian vulgarity to the role.
Fair enough. So he's channeling Celeste Patterson a little, perhaps, in the role.
Yeah, maybe it was, without the saliva coming out. He just went on and absolutely, had the place in stitches. He stole the whole show at that press conference when they were talking about it. And it was just a fantastic kind of display, really, of the talent that there is there. Of course, in the Gandalf role, again, there's Sir Ian McKellen. He wasn't at the premiere. Some were suggesting he was boycotting the premiere in New Zealand as a protest against the New Zealand Prime Minister's comment that we mentioned a few weeks ago about when he was being interviewed on radio, and he says, "Oh, you're not going to interview me with that gay red shirt, are you?"
Oh, that's right, yep.
So Sir Ian, who plays Gandalf, apparently was very upset about that. And there was the other cast members were all there. It's very much a big event. We saw Elijah Wood, who played Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. He was back because there's a segue really from The Lord of the Rings back to this, and Frodo appears at the beginning of this. A little bit of rewriting there, I think.
Okay. Well, much anticipation for it. Boxing Day before we see it, but it'll be here before we know it. Yeah. Now, moving on to other things, from hobbits to wine. The New Zealand wine industry showing some signs of a turnaround. You've had tough times there for a while. Yes,
it has. And with Christmas coming up, I was kind of thought, well, it might be a very good thing to touch on very quickly. The New Zealand wines, I know that you're absolutely spoilt with that mighty Barossa Valley just up the road there.
Yep.
The New Zealand whites, they might be worth a bit of the taste, particularly the Sauvignon Blanc and the Pinot Gris varieties are really, really doing well. It's interesting with the volumes, like the Barossa Valley, just looking at some of the stats and very quickly, it put out, it's noticed an 8% downturn in the volume of the harvest, around about 51,000 tonnes apparently in 2012, and that's down 18% on 2011. Interestingly, in New Zealand, it was down 18% as well, and that's been the volumes, of course, for the whole country are up on the Barossa Valley. But what the move is here is the winemakers are once again saying it's a good thing to have the tonnage down because we can concentrate on the quality. And with the high New Zealand dollar, just like Australia, with a high Australian dollar, it's a harder kind of ask really in the export areas. So New Zealand wines. I just thought it's a bit like trying to sell sell cars to the Japanese or sell
Or ice to
fridges to Eskimos, trying to sell New Zealand wine to people from South Australia. But I just thought it would be worth a go, Peter.
Yep. Well, very partial to a nice Marlborough Sauv Blanc, so that's all right.
Yeah. And apparently, even the Pinot Gris, the Pinot Noir, that's one of the reds that would be worth checking out from Martinborough region in New Zealand if people want to give it a go.
All right, I'll put that on notice and see what it's like. Many thanks, Selwyn. We will catch you again next week.
Take care.
See you later. Selwyn Manning in New Zealand. From more, if you want to catch some more news from New Zealand, livenews.co.nz. On news, we've got our news coming up. Anne Stone has news, sport and weather in just a moment. Then back with more of your calls, 8223 0000.
5AA and Pope Garden products are giving you a chance to win a Pope Gardening watering package